I just saw him walking.
They were probably teammates.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Wendy gave me a big watch. Get Paul a big watch. I don't know. I mean, we're trying.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah, they're so big. They were. That's awesome.
Charity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand.
Okay.
There he is, he called it. Oh, he's 2 minutes early.
All right.
Gary said 4:35.
It's informative.
All right. I have 4:33, and this time we will call the meeting of the Kansas City Commission to order. And with that, Commissioner Kramer, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Please bow with me. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, and Lord, we're just so thankful for what you've provided to this city and to all of those that lived here. We thank you for your many blessings. Lord, we thank you for all of the people that give all that they have to help the city be a better place. And please help us as we make the best decisions to continue to move Canyon forward in the best way possible, so that not only we can reap those benefits, but the benefits can be reaped from many people as they continue to move here and grow here and experience life here. Thank you so much for all things, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hand over your heart.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Takes us to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 20th, 2020.
No corrections or additions. I move that we approve as presented.
Second. Have a motion second to approve as presented. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Public comments from interested citizens. Griffin.
Nobody has signed in, Mayor.
All right. Item number 6, consider and take appropriate action on second and final reading of resolution number 09-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon approving project funding agreement between GNP Kalick Industries, LLC, DBA Tire Works, Tire Pros, and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance and job incentives for new business in Canyon. Stephanie.
Thank you all again for having us. This has been a great opportunity for us to work for Tire Works. We were actually just before this saying that we're going to have another meeting with them, just because we're working on everything from the landscaping, from the water line, to just making it look pretty. And I will tell you all that they were actually at the Chamber golf tournament. They want to be a part of the community, and I appreciate that. I think the EDC board saw that as a big part of why they've requested $60,000, and we're going to help them with their water line. That water line not only will service that location, but that whole development and that gateway on 15th Street. So we are asking for your blessing on this.
I'll move we approve. Have a motion and a second to approve the funding agreement. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Item number 7 is consider and take appropriate action on second and final reading of resolution number 10-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon approving project funding agreement between Canyon Chamber of Commerce and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance for fireworks display for annual Independence Day celebration in Canyon.
So as part of our sponsorship that we have for Canyon Chamber of Commerce is the fireworks in the amount of $11,500. Again, everybody knows that July 4th is the biggest celebration that Canyon, and really the biggest event that we have. So we feel like this is a good investment to try to bring even more people to Canyon, and really just, we all know July 4th is what Canyon's all about. So we're asking for the approval for the 11/5 for the fireworks for July 4th.
Stephanie, this is just for July 4th.
This is just for July 4th.
Not piece in December.
Yes.
So move we approve. Have a motion and a second to approve the funding for the chamber. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you very much, sir. All right, item number 8, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 11-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, exercising the second of 3 one-year extension terms of the current depository services contract agreement between the City of Canyon, Texas and Happy State Bank, a division of Centennial Bank, authorizing the Director of Finance to execute a letter to Happy State Bank related thereto on behalf of the City of Canyon, Texas, for the one-year extension of the current depository services agreement. Joel?
Thank you, Mayor. Since I've prepared the packet, I've got an update from the bank. That is really their offer for the extension. Thank you. And on the second page of this, there's a couple of provisions that they are wanting to make in changing. So just to kind of give background, we entered this depository contract back effective September 1 of 2021. It has an initial term of 2 years, which we've cleared that, and then we have 3 additional extension options for 1 year each. We exercised one of those last year, so we're in the first year of the extension right now. This is to extend for the second of those 3 for the year 24-25. When I was kind of going back and forth with them, I was a little bit concerned that they would maybe come back and want to decrease the interest rate that they've been giving us, because it is a favorable interest rate, 25 basis points over the 13-week T-bill rate, which is adjusted each week after that rate is set each week as that comes in on Thursday. And that's kept our rate up well over 5%. We've been at 5.5% or better almost every week. And so I was glad to see that they're not wanting to change that. They're leaving that same rate on there. The 2 changes that they are making, when I don't know if you recall, back in 2016, that depository contract had a provision in it by Happy State Bank that we would only deposit or invest our cash with the bank. We wouldn't go anywhere else with it. When we did the 2021 contract, we didn't put that provision in there. So it left us with an option that we could go invest in something else if we wanted to. This letter and this Exhibit B that I've just given you, especially on Exhibit B, you see it, the first or the last sentence of the first paragraph. They're putting that back in. They're requiring us to maintain all of our deposits at Happy State Bank. And currently we don't have money anywhere else. All of our money's at the bank. We couldn't get a better rate anywhere else. This limitation would just affect us if we're in a situation where interest rates really dropped and for some reason there was something else we were going to go invest in. Our investment policy keeps us very conservative, so there's not much else we can invest in that really gives us a higher rate. We're not going to go invest in coffee bean futures or anything like that. We're going to keep it in U.S. Treasury notes or maybe a participated bank CD. That would be an opportunity that we couldn't get unless we did it through the bank. If the bank was offering us a CDARS account where we were able to invest in multiple banks offering CDs. So that's one limitation. The other limitation they've put on is that
any future CDs, as our CDs mature, any future CDs, the maximum term would be 180 days, so that's 6 months. Currently, we've been using a laddered CD process where we invest in 6 month, 1 year, and 18-month CDs, just to kind of hang on to interest rates as long as we can if we got into a situation where interest rates started going down. With this provision, we could only renew for a 6 month CD maximum. I'm okay with those conditions. I understand they're hedging their side if they got in a situation with interest rates going down. I think at this higher interest rate that they're giving us, we're getting a good deal. As far as service goes, we can't complain about service. We're very pleased with the service, and we're getting that for no fees. There's no fees charged for any of the services that we get. So our recommendation is that we go ahead and extend for this 1 year extension, which would be September 1, 24 through August 31, 25. Do you have any questions?
They give us any reason why they wanted us to maintain those false deposits?
Well, if they're gonna give us this good of an interest rate, they want to be able to use all of our cash.
It wasn't much different than it was.
Well, we didn't have that limitation on us since 2021. We could have gone elsewhere, but we wouldn't have because the interest rate was so much better. But it just gives them the ability to use all of our cash to make loans. So that's how a bank operates. They pay us to have the deposits, but then they're going to turn around and try to loan that at a higher rate. So it behooves them to have all of our available deposits.
So Joel, the first 3 years, with this being our third year, that hasn't been the case in this?
Or
Or it was the first two, it just wasn't the last?
Not since 2021.
Not since 2020.
That's when we entered this current
Agreement.
5-year,
Gotcha.
potentially 5-year contract.
Okay.
It was in there in
Prior
the
to
previous
that.
one, the 2016 depository contract.
Okay.
We have one more year. If we approve tonight, we have one more extension.
Correct. This would be for 24, 25, then we have an option for one more extension before we have to do a request for application and do the whole process over again. We have to do that at least every 5 years.
And the process of changing is a complicated process, is it not?
It's a lengthy process, yes. If we go back out for do a request for application, we really need to start that in February to go through the process of getting applications and then choosing a new bank, and then in that schedule, that would give the new bank, if we changed, 2 to 3 months to get set up and get ready for us to start the new fiscal year.
So if we extend this for a year, you're gonna come back again when to start talking about?
We'll evaluate it by February. If everything's still good at February, we may not do anything unless you just want us to. Because we'll
It's to go for one more
just
year.
keep going, maybe go for one more year
Okay.
at this rate. Because as we stand, we're not paying anything for our bank service. And we're getting a good interest rate on our deposits, so it's a good deal.
Move to approve resolution number 11-2024.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the extension of the Bank Depository Services contract. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, to item number 9, consider and take appropriate action on presentation and discussion of donor support options for the Canyon Housing Rehabilitation Program.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a program that we're working on starting up. It comes right from our comprehensive plan. There was a goal set in that comp plan to work towards some rehabilitation of existing housing stock in the city as another way to try and invest back into our community ensure that the housing stock is maintained, and also work with their owner-occupied residents that may need assistance depending on the situation that they're in. So what I did is included kind of our startup guide that I put together, kind of the things that we say that we need to do between now and kind of getting that program off the ground. As a brief overview of the program, the goal from the city's side is to meet that comprehensive plan goal of rehabilitating 3 houses a year. What that means is that we would work on getting all these program documents put together. We would solicit applications from residents in the city of Canyon who currently own their home. You can't be a renter, you can't be a landlord, it's not an investment property. It would be if you're a homeowner. There would be a scoring criteria that would basically calculate their score based on the substandardness of the home and their income level. That score would be combined, taking into account some specific features. If they're a veteran, they're disabled, there'd be scoring points associated with those. And then if that home was in a substandard condition that is able to be brought to standard condition with the $25,000 limit, then we would move forward with recommending them for selection in the program. So that's kind of the idea of how it works. I had the opportunity to work on a lot of these programs in upstate New York with my previous consulting firm. This was kind of the bread and butter for that firm. They got the funds from HUD, actually through the state CDBG program. That program is not offered in the same way in the state of Texas. They focus more on infrastructure and roads here from the state perspective. But we see operating the program the same way that CDBG operates it in New York, from the standpoint of scoring criteria, making sure that people qualify, that there's no conflict of interest between city staff and applicants, and then also making sure that it's something that funds can actually make a difference in. So typically what we would see up there would be a new roof, insulation, an HVAC system, windows, very basic things that bring a house that's in substandard condition up to a standard condition where they could really be able to sustain themselves, be able to live in that house longer. Most of the applicants and awardees that we saw in upstate New York were elderly, people who kind of have a fixed income at the end of their, they're in retirement phase. A lot of veterans and disabled people that kind of fell into that category where they've been in that home, maybe it was their parents' house, it's been passed down, it's been in that family for a long time. So that's kind of the people that benefited from the program from a lot of the communities that we worked with up there. The main thing we wanted to bring tonight is a way that we can bring the community into this program. That's something Joe and I have talked about extensively, and that's a goal of ours, is that the city would contribute some funds, and then we could reach out to partners in the community, in the banking industry, the construction industry, the faith community, and say, hey, this is a program that we're starting up, and give donors an opportunity to participate in that program with a tax deductible donation. And so that's why we need to kind of get some more direction from this body, is how exactly we'd like to see that moving forward. We met with Chuck and Joel and talking through the specifics of how we can make sure we're maintaining appropriate IRS rules and things like that. And Chuck mentioned that we do have an existing 501c3 that's an arm of the city through Main Street, and that the Main Street 501c3 doesn't have any restrictions on it that would keep it from being able to also kind of house this program. But then the other option that we said would be to create its own 501c3, and it would just be designating a new organization. That would take more time, it'd be its own process. And so really we wanted to bring it to this body to get any input or recommendations or thoughts on how y'all would like us to see us move forward. The third option would be that we don't solicit donations that are tax deductible, and we can still solicit donations, but if they're given directly to the city, they can't be tax deductible in this circumstance. So that's like when we built Kylie Heiner, a lot of the funds went through Ambucks, and then Ambucks just made a donation because Ambucks didn't need a tax deduction receipt from us because they're already a nonprofit. So we're just trying to think through how to fund it through in a similar way and be able to receive community support for that program.
So if you did it with Main Street, it really wouldn't require anything of Kirsty then. It'd just be kind of a pass-through on the account.
That's right.
On needing her and being involved in it.
That's right. We would, the planning and development department would still run it, and we'd set up the forms and host the applications and everything from that respect. We might be coming back to this body at the time when we're ready to start the program up to appoint maybe a loan committee through that board on Main Street, that they could look at the applications and make recommendations that then you all could approve at that point. That's the way we ran it in upstate New York. Every municipality had a loan committee made up of people that were invested in that program or had been a part of that program in one way or another. Bring the applications to them, say, okay, based on the scoring, recommend these. If they have any questions at that point, we can kind of talk through the scope, and then once they're awarded, you go back and finalize a scope of work, given the amount of money funded for that specific home. And you have to balance the desires of the homeowner with the necessities of that home, and try and say, okay, well, you'd like to see windows, but the roof has to be done first. Kind of put that first on priority list, and then add windows and things like that. So that's kind of the idea.
I think, what we're thinking, if we could raise 75,000 total.
Yeah, if we could get to that total amount, that would give us the ability, in my experience, to hopefully get 3 done. There are certain homes that are substandard to the level where they wouldn't be eligible for the program because it would take more investment than would necessarily be appropriate or worth it.
We would utilize building safety staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Craig's funds.
Yeah, Craig's expertise would be heavily utilized in that, be able to go out and do site visits.
So would you be looking for volunteers to do the work, or how?
No, typically, the way that it operated in upstate was, we'd work with the homeowner, and we'd be doing all the administration, so that would kind of be the no cost out, from our end. And then, once we create a scope of work, once someone's funded, they're selected for funding, you go create a more specialized scope of work. Okay, we're gonna do the roof, the windows and siding. And then you put together basically a bid packet that you push out to all of our registered contractors, and then they'd be able to submit sealed bids. The homeowner can specifically choose contractors they want to receive the opportunity to bid. And then once those bids are selected, you go through that process, and then it would just be contractors doing the work at that point. That's the best way to ensure the work gets done in a more timely fashion for the homeowner, because volunteer labor is a lot harder to organize for larger projects like that.
And we're thinking C's contribution first year would be 25,000.
We won't, and we're hoping we can do 25 next year, at least for now. So. And maybe we only do, we've got 25 in this budget too, so we will carry that over. So 25 in the existing budget that we're in right now. Our budget coming up, it'll be only 25 next year on those.
When do you think this would roll out? When do we plan on trying to get the first person?
Yeah, if we get some direction at this meeting, I would hope that we'd be able to roll it out starting in the next budget year, kind of this fall, be able to start that process, get all the documents together. I reached out to my previous employer, and they said they'd love to share all of kind of their documents, the application, a lot of those things. That way we don't have to start from scratch. We can kind of have some pre-worked on documents that we can use to make it a more smooth transition.
We will be asking others for money on top of it. So if y'all are good and bless this, we'll ask for, I know probably some bank support, some church support, trying to round out some more. I think ideally, probably from Lucas and I, if we could raise another 25 this year, it'd be great. Our goal is to get to 75. We may not get that this year or not. We think we can get to 25. Obviously, we want some of those people that are committing money to also be on the loan committee, and we need to figure out those logistics as well.
There's a program that banks have to comply with, CRA is Community Reinvestment Act, and I think there's probably a pretty good chance banks could even get kind of points with that by, supporting a
awesome.
program like this that's geared towards, to have to be low to moderate income,
Right, absolutely.
as long as it qualifies.
Yeah, that would be the requirement. We'd use the CDBG numbers from the census to qualify people, and it's by county.
More or less, I would have to qualify the person instead of the census tract, like we talked about, Gary. Just so y'all know, none of our census tracts are in the low to moderate income. So when we did the last CDBG grant that we're about to do, John and several of our other staff members walked to prove those numbers, to prove those numbers, because
Right.
the census those tracts can be fairly large as
They are
well.
large tracts, yeah. It would be based on household income for that entire household. And then the way it would operate in New York and what we're suggesting to do is that the grant is given as a 5-year zero-interest loan. So there's a lien on the property. And if at any point in that 5-year period the house is sold, then the amortized portion of the remaining loan, we'd be the first to receive that money back to go back into the program. So that kind of disincentivizes someone getting the benefit and selling the house, yeah, so the goal would be. But as I said, situations arise, a lot of elderly people end up in these, that they might need to go to assisted living or something else if the family sells the home. We ran into that. Then they would just have to be responsible to pay back that portion. That goes back into the city's program. So is there any preference? Does it bother any of you for it to go under Main Street and be housed that way? Or is that, because that would be the quickest option for us to be able to move forward in that way, and it would just basically be a designated fund held by Main Street. Anybody that made donations could designate that fund for the housing rehabilitation program.
I think as long as it doesn't put any extra work on Kirsty, it doesn't create work. Let's do it that way.
Great, so I did leave it open for an action item. If anybody would be comfortable making that action, then we could move forward in that way.
Need to be approving.
Yeah, the motion would be to allow city staff to designate the Canyon Housing Rehabilitation Program as a project of Canyon Main Street and be able to accept funds as such.
So moved.
I just have a question. Is there an possible expiration on Main Street?
On Main Street as
Just in perpetuity until dissolved, so it's got perpetual existence. And it's not limited in terms of legal authority. It can engage in any activity authorized by Texas law.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of running the program through Main Street, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. Great question, Cody.
It'll be interesting to see how it progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I think it's gonna make a big difference for some Canyon residents, so
Will you send me that?
absolutely.
Item number 10, consider and take appropriate action on the Canyon Police Department 2023 annual report and 2023 racial profiling report. Chief?
Thank you for having me, let me speak.
I don't think you have a choice.
I did not.
It's required by state law, to be honest.
So,
So delegated.
so I apologize for this taking till June to get all our numbers gathered up and put together. But it's a little bit later than what we usually do, but we did produce a good report, I think. Of course, Megan did all the fancy work, so I won't take any credit for that. We do thank her for helping us with it. In our annual report, we've included all of our crime statistic numbers and the racial profiling all in one. Also, the city ordinance requires that we do an annual traffic report. So all those numbers are combined into our annual report. The annual report starts off with my letter, and mainly in that, we just want to recognize the officers who put in all the hard work and keep our department up and running. We also want to
thank you all for the support that we received throughout the year, and then of course the citizens who we work with, and we have a great community that we live and work in, and we appreciate that. The next page on the report is the organizational chart. That did change a little bit this year because of the 12-hour shifts. You can see we added another patrol sergeant and patrol corporal. Just that fourth line there, or the first line, either way you want to look at it, is the only real change there. The 12-hour shifts, we have 2 shifts that are off and then 2 that are on all the time. One is days and one's nights. The next page is just our mission statement and what we do as a police department that's consistent throughout year to year. The next page is a new page in the report. It's Executive Order 14074. That was one of President Biden's first executive orders, and it contained a lot of things. Section 12 specifically addressed the Law Enforcement Support Organization, or the old 1033 program, if you remember that. Basically, that's where we're able to get military surplus equipment and transfer it to us to use as police equipment. The executive, we've been able to do that for a long time, and we participate in that program. We've got several pieces of equipment. But the executive order section 12 required that we notify the citizens in the governing body that we may potentially request and acquire controlled property that's listed in the report. The controlled property mostly consists of weapons, armored equipment, and I guess you could use the word offensive equipment, something we might use to for uses of force and that kind of thing. We do own or have possession of some controlled equipment, namely our armored vehicle. That's a military equipment that's not ours. It still belongs to the military or to the Department of Defense. But like I said, the executive order just orders us to let you know that we have the potential to apply for more controlled equipment. We don't have any real intentions to, unless something really cool comes along, and then we might want to try to grab that. The next page is our accreditation overview. Captain Coggins updates this annually when we do our annual report. This year, he mentioned Chief Bobby Griffin being on the interim accreditation committee back when Texas Police Chiefs Association first started the accreditation. He also mentioned, as we like to bring up every chance we get, that we were the first agency in the state of Texas to receive a 5th accreditation. And that we are only one of 200 agencies out of the 2,400 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas that are accredited. There was a push in the legislature last year that all agencies would be accredited. It didn't pass. Don't know where that's going to stand for the next legislative session, but we do like to point out that we're kind of ahead of the curve as we have been accredited for many years.
Those numbers are pretty impressive, Chief. I mean, that's less than 10% of the agencies in Texas that are accredited, and we're in those. Yeah, it is to be accredited.
We're really proud of it, and it takes a lot of work. I appreciate Matt. Matt couldn't be here today, but I appreciate him. He puts in a lot of work doing that. It's really hard. It's time consuming. It makes everybody in the agency irritated with him because of all the things he needs to do and the training he has to set up. But it's really worth it to make our agency better. The next page is all of our crime numbers, the numbers I was talking about. Very relax. I'm not going to go through each number. We are up in some areas. Our calls for service are up and our offense reports are up, but the Part 1 crimes are down. When we talk about Part 1 crimes, that's really not what's reported nowadays. There's a different reporting system through the National Incident-Based Reporting System that doesn't do Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes are part of the old uniform crime reporting. But the Part 1 crimes, we still list those because those are the ones that are most concerning to most people. The reporting system now is is a long list of all kinds of different crimes, A and B groups. These are the ones that everybody's really concerned about most of the time. As you can,
What would be a part one crime?
part one crimes are the
You mind
homicide.
going through those, just those part one crimes? again?
Yes, sir. Homicide is part one, rape, robbery, assault, burglary. Larceny, theft is theft there. The motor vehicle theft is a stolen vehicle. That's not a burglary of a vehicle. Burglary of a vehicle is filed under a theft. And then arson. Those are the old part ones, and those are what we give you the numbers on.
Should have said, Robin, look over there to the right.
Say that. You can see on the chart that all of our part one crimes are down except for motor vehicle theft. Kind of something to remember though, on the motor vehicle theft, we went from 5 to 9. With small numbers, it makes our percentages jump way up. So even though we're up 80% in motor vehicle theft, we only had 4 more vehicles stolen this year than last year, so.
And it's still less than 21 too, so.
Correct. Overall, our crimes are down, and we're pretty proud of that. We've worked hard to do that. Even though there were more offense reports and calls for service, we think that shows we're responding and we're taking care of our citizens in our community and trying to make it a safe place. DWIs were up, but MIPs were down. The officers, I haven't been here long enough. When I came in 2020, there were no college parties because there was nothing in 2020. Since 2020, the officers tell me that there's been a change. There's not the old college parties that there used to be. There's still some, but not as many and not as big. In the olden days, I think it was a huge deal, and they had lots of MIPs and MIC, or minor in possession and minor in consumption, talking about alcohol. That continues to kind of drop. That's the only explanation I have, is just kids party different now, or they party better, I don't know. But those numbers are down. Drunk driving arrests are up, and we want to keep those up simply because we believe that impacts our crash numbers, and we're working to have as few crashes, especially dangerous crashes, as we can. Where it says citations in the main column there, that's really not citations, that's traffic stops. Kind of get into that in the next, when I get into the racial profiling. But that's not citations, that's traffic stops. Those are up, once again, just trying to enforce those traffic laws that we believe reduces crashes and in effect keeps the city safer. In the traffic accident section, you can see there that everything is up except for fatalities. We've looked at our crashes, and most of our crashes are simple property damage, and I think that's attributed a lot to the low speeds in town. We have seen an increase in crashes near the new Allsups at I-27 and 4th, but that everybody talks about that and what needs to be fixed, or how that can be fixed. Everybody has a theory. We just work the crashes. But like I said, most of ours are property damage. We don't see a lot of high speed, real dangerous, a lot of injury crashes. We do see some, and those are up too, but 38 in a year is we will continue to work to try to bring that number down through traffic enforcement. Our drug seizures, real quickly on that, you see marijuana, THC are our big numbers on that. We don't seize a lot of drugs. I don't have an officer that's specifically assigned to work drugs. Most of the organization or the units or task forces or whatever they call themselves that work drugs, they don't spend a lot of time in Canyon. If we get information about some drugs or a drug location, we'll work that, but most of our drug seizures are from traffic stops and traffic enforcement. We'll keep an eye on that. Should that change, then we will we'll kind of address that as we can, whether we need to assign a detective or tie in with DPS or Randall County or one of the other organizations that has a dedicated compliance unit that we might need to partner with. For animal control, you can see most of those numbers are up in '23. We made a change in July of '23, where when Lisa retired, she was a civilian animal control officer, and Joe gave us the okay to make that a commissioned officer position, kind of like the sheriff's office does with their stray programs. And we believe that brought the animal control portion of our operation back in closer to the police department. We feel like we've got better reporting. I don't know that the numbers say we have more animals that are at large or being captured, returned, and that kind of thing. However, I think we have, part of that is because we have better reporting and better accountability. We're continuing to try to improve that, but we have definitely increased the citations. We reached a point where we felt like warnings weren't working anymore, so and if we captured your dog and you got your dog back, then you probably got a ticket. We don't have a fee set up in the fee schedule for impounding and kenneling and releasing and all that kind of stuff. So we just write the ticket and let municipal court worry about that. But we did increase that quite a bit just because the animal control situation needed some improvements. We think it will continue to improve, and we're working to improve that because we still feel like it needs to improve some. Wild animals are all down. I think the city's just expanding out far enough that it's running the animals out. I don't have anything really to base that on. That's just a wild guess. I kind of made that up in my office this afternoon.
Wild guess, was that?
You know, I'm not that quick, Joe. Okay, the next page, or next 2 pages, is our annual racial profiling report. Like I said, there's 3,691 traffic stops. Ooh, we may have had a typo there on my list. Yeah, I'm sorry. We had a little difference between our list, but our annual profiling report this is accurate. This comes off the computer. So we had 361 traffic stops. Traffic stops consist of a verbal warning, a warning, or a citation, and only traffic stops are listed here. This doesn't include any other pedestrian stops or visits with people or anything like that. So this is just motor vehicle stops. We've looked at this. I had Matt do some pretty extensive research on this to kind of check our numbers and see if we developed any problems. He compared it with the 2020 census numbers to compare with our the percentage of the racial makeup of our city, just to see if we have anything that stands out. Once again, we're cautious when we do these because our numbers are so small that it doesn't take much to make a really huge percentage difference in our numbers because we're only dealing with a few numbers. The only thing we really discovered that there are a couple things that we discovered that were kind of a concern on our racial profiling report. The street address or the location of the stop on that first page, kind of in that middle section on the left. We have several U.S. highways that an officer may list as a city street, and we have state highways that an officer may list as a city street. So those numbers could be a little skewed. We don't have really any way to correct that. If an officer lists it as a state highway, and he's on a state highway, he's correct, but it has a city street name too, so he's correct either way. So there's no real big correction there. In the verbal warnings, we did list some verbal warnings there, and I'll be honest, I'm not real sure how those got into the system because we we don't want our officers doing verbal warnings because we want to gather all the information that's required for the racial profiling report. My best guess is the officers got just enough information to get a verbal warning into the system. But they probably had to drop the call. Most cases where a verbal warning is issued, it's because they get a call while they're on a traffic stop that they need to drop the stop and go to the call. The only other area of concern that we kind of had was in the area back on the other page. I'm sorry, Gretchen, I'm flipping back and forth. On the first page, you can see the stop conducted and the search reason. The search conducted and the search reason. The search conducted, we believe is probably accurate to an extent. We think it's a little off because of the inventory category in that next column. We think, and we're kind of guessing because it's kind of hard a year later to go back and determine where the information came from. We think that a lot of inventories are being listed as probable cause searches because people are going to jail. Anytime anybody goes to jail and we impound that vehicle, then we do an inventory. But we think it's kind of both right answers again. You still have probable cause to search the vehicle if you're putting a person in jail. But we technically like that to be called an inventory and to do an inventory sheet. We just think that we need to make some corrections with the officers in that area, just so we have a little more accurate report. We don't believe that the report indicates that we have any indications that we're racially profiling anyone when we're conducting our traffic stops. We believe that we're working ethically and morally. We think our numbers support that. Like I said, when you're working with really small numbers, it doesn't take much to throw those numbers off, but we're monitoring. The officers are checked monthly by their supervisor. The supervisor will pull up a random video of a traffic stop or several and kind of review those, and they'll fill out a review sheet. We're working diligently to make sure that we're not crossing over that line or getting carried away with ourselves. Like I said, we do believe we have some improvements to make, but that's kind of the reason you run these reports and do these kind of things. Like I said, when I started, I apologize for taking so long to get that to you. This report is required to be at TCOL by March 1st, and I did submit that report. It was in on time, but we kind of kept messing with it and looking at it to make sure we had everything reported that we needed to report and wanted to get done. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
Are yours handwritten?
We have both. We have some are handwritten, we have electronic. I'm gonna get way out of my league really quick here. I think the electronic dump in automatically. The handwritten have to be typed in. Part of the arrest stuff, I think it is because it's entered by one of our administrative assistants and not by the officer himself on an arrest, because they don't necessarily write a ticket on an arrest. So that information has to be, it may have came from a traffic stop, but they might not write a ticket. So it has to be kind of brought together. So there's a couple of different elements that go into that could.
Yeah, it'd be hard for your state highway numbers to not be 4 times that amount. It's considering a city street.
It's just what they go
think
with.
it is. Yeah.
It's either answer's right, really, in my opinion.
I move to accept the 23 Police Department annual report and the 23 racial profiling report.
I just wanted to point something out that I thought is a little odd. It's just something that jumped out to me is you know, your citations on your annual report, your citations are combined citations and warnings. So I would assume that the majority of your drunk driving arrests are coming out of those numbers. And the percentage is like a lot. I mean, your percentages were a lot higher in 21 than they were in 22 and 23. If all of those numbers are accurate, because you had like 2,600 citations, which are warnings, and 77 arrests, but in 22 you had 3,300, and half of that number in DWI arrests. Do you think that's just a transition in training and just lots of new guys not catching DWIs as much as they are on the traffic stops, or?
So, yeah,
Assume that.
in 22, we had a big push for DWIs, and the news came and did a story. We like really had a big push for numbers. That was honestly, that wasn't anything we did. That was a couple of supervisors that were like, hey, let's see if we can push DWIs and see what we can run up. I think there's just not been a big push. And two, I do think, yes, as we transition people, we got a lot more new people and a lot less old people. You know, DWIs are a little, they're very, you know, detail oriented to make that arrest. I think a lot of new guys are a little concerned, little shaky making those arrests sometimes. They want to make sure they have everything right.
I wonder what those 12-hour shifts, you know, having more time to work those in a shift as opposed to having, you know, just a couple hours at the end of your shift to figure that out. I wonder if that'll help, so.
I don't know. We've had some that were, you know, you're still going to have those at the end of the shift.
Right.
A lot, especially on the day shift when they get off at 6 in the afternoon. They've had a couple where they've got DWIs at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and it does take them over the end of the shift. We haven't really noticed that that's a deterrent, but most of the time the guys who get those are the guys who would do a DWI no matter what, like they're out there looking for them all the time.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the annual police report, facial profiling report for 2023. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You're not done.
Item number 11 is consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 12-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, prescribing limitations on parking for standing motor vehicles or trailers during the parade to be held July 4, 2024.
Thank you, sir. So as we come up on the 4th of July, we know we're gonna have the parade and City Ordinance 892 requires a resolution to be enacted that gives us the authority to take control of the parking and standing along 4th Avenue where we're gonna run the parade down. The parade will actually be on the 4th of July this year. I think that's a Thursday. So we're just asking for a resolution that gives us the authority to enact Ordinance 892.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 12, consider to take appropriate action on resolution number 13-2024, resolution of the City Commission, City of Canyon, Texas, granting exclusive management right to the Canyon Chamber of Commerce over the downtown square, Paul Lindsay Park, and public areas in and around these areas during the annual 4th of July celebration to be held July 4th, 2024.
Thank you, sir. So this resolution just, the commission has filed all of their, Chamber has filed all of their permits to do the fair on the square and the fireworks show and the parade and the run that they do down 4th Street, kind of with the other resolution where we close down 4th Street. This just gives the chamber, the authority to take over those areas and maintain that. And we help them with that. You'll notice that Connor Park is not the park this year for the fireworks. It is Paul Lindsay Park. We did that last year. Closed the entire park to do that, probably do that again this year. And then, of course, the fair on the square will be the same as always.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion second. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Those like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, item number 13 is consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1205, an ordinance of the City of Canyon, Texas, providing for limited operation of golf carts within city limits, providing for severability, a penalty for violation, and effective date. Chuck?
Thank you, Mayor. We had input on this at the last meeting, as you recall, invited people to come speak and addressed it concerning limited operation of golf carts in the municipality. I think the sense of the commission was that basically, based on the input and our discussion, to limit operation to streets which had speed limits 35 or less by licensed drivers during daylight hours, which is part of that state law, and keep them off state highways. Crossing US 60 will be on the 15th Street Bridge with certain required safety equipment consisting of headlamps, tail lamps, reflectors, parking brake, and rear view mirrors. We also had a seatbelt requirement, and we have incorporated that into Ordinance 1205, providing for limited operations, and we added it to a section of the code that had previously been reserved for expansion, which is 1105-022. So with that, I'd invite any questions. That is our iteration of the result of the last meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 1205 as presented.
A second.
Have a motion second to approve ordinance number 1205. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the ordinance, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 3-1.
Are we going to put out this information?
Robin, it'll be published because it has
Okay.
penal provision
Okay.
in the ordinance, so the caption will be published.
We've seen some brochures from a couple of different places, and we'll attempt to come up with something that could be disseminated.
It sounds like we would act mostly on complaints or so, is what I was hearing last time. Chief,
I think when we enact it, we'll obviously warn people first and see if we can get some compliance.
We did last time.
Our big thing is that most of the time when you see golf carts being driven, most of the time, it's kids. I'm hoping if we publish the ordinance and people see that, hey, my kids can't drive, but I can drive, then hopefully that curtails some of it. And that way the people that go to Pack-a-Sack or to the WT games, they can still go. Just don't let your kids or grandkids drive. And the people who drive on the 4th of July, we don't have enough people to manage the 4th of July and the golf carts at the same time. It kind of just eliminates some problem, but it puts out there, here's the city standard. You don't have to try to interpret the whole state law thing, because as Chuck mentioned before, it always gets misinterpreted because the plat,
Well,
whatever, we're not a planned community.
Yeah.
This just kind of cleans it up. It allows some people to drive, but we're okay with it. I know I rambled, sorry. The officers are not gonna go out there and actively, hey, today I'm gonna go out there and get me a golf cart driver and write them a ticket. They don't wanna mess with it. I said that before, but We will. We do want everybody to be safe. I know I say that a lot, but we do want them to be safe. So yes, probably the majority will be by complaint, or if they just see somebody over and over that just won't follow the rules.
And it gives, I think, it helps police officers trying to enforce that on a complaint basis by creating more of a bright line rule about what you are and are not allowed to do. The subchapter F is a little bit convoluted when you read it, and so it just clarifies it for officer purposes. Example would be if you get a call from somebody at Canyon East saying, okay, I've got 15-year-olds out here driving golf carts up and down the street. Then an officer has to respond to that, and you've got a clear pathway on what you need to do. Warning first, as Chief mentioned, and if that doesn't work, voluntary compliance is always sought first.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item number 14, executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney. And I've got 5:33, adjourn into executive session.
Will the number that you signed up be on Today, y'all did y'all file charges with the court to create?
So anyway,
Y'all just okay, so I can get information on that? Yeah, so to get information on that, contact the court.
Vince, thanks for coming, Vince. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you do.
Oh, no, thank you.
I was working that.